The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome back to the second episode of The Young American. I am your host, Joseph Bemister. We are live from the Studio 21 Podcast Café. Find us on iHeartRadio, Podbeam, the United Podcast Network, and YouTube Live. This podcast is fully fact-based about politics, our government officials, government, laws, and how we feel the government is changing in a good and bad direction. Through the eyes of myself being the young American libertarian. Our talking points today is going to be why the Republicans are okay, or the right side, not necessarily the Republicans, okay with Trump taking away firearms and creating the regulations, but we're not with Obama's. Why the NRA is supporting him behind this and how they've changed their point of view now 2 times. And the Buyback program, if there was one, how they would essentially how that would be effective. And could the American people resist the Buyback program? And if there was civil unrest because they resisted and the government decided to go after them, would that be a violation of oath for the National Guard members, the police officers, and the people who are going to take the firearms away?
All right.
I think there's some good points.
You've got you got an action-packed show planned here,
Oh, I
Joseph.
do. I very much do. All right, so we're going to start off with why the Republicans and the right side are okay with Trump's ban. I believe they're justifying it as a kind of just a regulation, and it's just another regulation that needs to be put into place by Trump. He's done so many executive orders, and in my personal opinion, a lot of them have been unconstitutional. He has not gone through a lot of due process, gone through Congress, the Senate, although there's no doubt in my mind because they lean more right, he would have gotten most of the things passed. But and he has the power to actually use the executive orders he has. That is his job. But it is...
and if he did anything really unconstitutional, wouldn't somebody sanction him in some way?
Essentially, but the Supreme Court, again, there's 9 justices on there. They are there to interpret what the Constitution is, the laws in the United States, and they're there to protect it. And if they decide, okay, he is doing something constitutional, and right now most of them are right, leaning towards the right side. So I think he knows he has that power. Obama had that power. No one did anything about it, but it's there. And that's my opinion. It's unconstitutional. I don't technically think it is.
Okay.
But there are checks and balances in due process they could go through to actually kind of reverse the executive orders if they wanted to, but they haven't yet, and I don't think they will. What are your thoughts on that, all those executive orders?
I think that he does an awful lot of things with his right hand so that we don't look and see what the left hand is doing. So I think that he is using Twitter, and I think 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we're going to look back on Donald Trump and say, you know what, there was a little bit of evil genius going on there because he was able to distract the entire country with, look at what's going on over here, look at this ridiculous tweet, and then, oh, Alec Baldwin, and then slide some regulations in over here. I honestly think in his heart of hearts that he means well and he has the best interest of the country at heart. I don't think that he should be allowed to manage his own Twitter account, but that's just me.
Hey, that's protected by his First Amendment, right?
Yes, it is.
And,
yes, it is.
He can do what he wants, but
as a president, he should have people under him that are saying, "Listen, boss, cut the S. There's no need for this."
That is very true. I think it's a good way that he voices what he says, but like you said, it's a way to distract the people. Alec Baldwin, oh, the celebrity said this about me the other day, him at the Oscars, and I believe it was actually this morning. He said there's no real stars left besides myself, the president.
Oh, nice.
Just joking, but that was a pretty funny distraction, at least from something. And I do believe there's a lot more going on that we don't see.
Right.
As always, with any president, there's going to be there. But now I do think that American people are paying more attention, not because they like him, but because they want to see him fail. And that shouldn't be a way, because it's like asking a taxi driver to fail while you're driving in his car. He's going to crash and you're going to burn with him.
Exactly.
It's not something you want.
Yeah, if the president wins, we all win, theoretically.
Essentially, yeah. I do think he means good. I do think he's more like Reagan than people think he is. He means good for the American people and the economy, but he does have some controversial beliefs, and he's doing some controversial things. But it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I've always believed, just like President Obama wasn't able to really dramatically change the landscape for the worse, I don't think Donald Trump is going to be able to dramatically change the landscape for the worse or for the better. It's going to be what it is, and in the end, you still have to deal with Congress. You got to deal with the Senate. There's so many checks and balances, like you said. So many things have to be in place to really get something passed. All this back and forth stuff is just that. It's just a little bit of back and forth to keep us distracted from the fact that they aren't getting much done.
No, not at all. With that, I don't think he can get much done with the Senate and Congress because it's so close to being a completely split in half ratio. But he does have the Republicans on his side at the moment because of his new gun regulations that he's proposed. I think he kind of split the Republican Party in two, and the left has stayed united because they just have
Well, they're anti-gun no matter what.
They're anti-gun no matter what. I wouldn't say completely anti-gun. I have some friends who are liberals, and they hunt. They believe, okay, we should be able to hunt. We should be able to have handguns and shotguns to protect ourselves, but I don't think we should have an AR-15 and what they call an assault rifle, which AR-15 doesn't stand for assault rifle. It stands for Armor Light Rifle Model 15, as most people who are educated on the subject know. But they refer to it as an assault rifle. You didn't?
Thanks for cluing me in.
It's true. It's okay.
I don't need an AR-15 either. I have my way of protecting myself. I do carry. I have my permit to carry here in the state of New Hampshire, even though I don't need it. We are constitutional carry state. But in the event that the whole country goes reciprocity, I have it. And therefore, I should be able to carry in all the other states if that ends up happening.
Yeah, it goes for registering your car. You register your car in New Hampshire. You don't pay, say, if you drive in Massachusetts. You're not paying Massachusetts. So
exactly.
Why aren't they regulating you on bringing your car into Massachusetts? I think it's just because they don't like guns. And it's not that they don't dislike or like cars, but they just look at it in a different way. And
well, with a car, they're getting you on the taxes on the fuel.
Yep.
They're getting you on the excise tax.
That's true.
They're able to generate an awful lot more money on a car than they can on a gun.
Yeah, well, they could generate a lot of tax through the firearms, the bullets, the accessories, the parts if they wanted to, but they aren't so far. It's very small tax, I believe, in some states. Like New Hampshire, I don't think there's anything.
I don't think there is either.
Anything on firearms. In other states, California, New York, Connecticut, I believe they have a huge tax on firearms, accessories. California now, I believe it was the first of the year, they decided they were going to ban AR-15s as a whole. If you have them, you have to register them, destroy them, or you have to convert them to something called a non-accessorized weapon. Essentially, you can't have a pistol grip. If you have the pistol grip, you can't be able to put your thumb through the loophole, and you're not allowed to have a foregrip. And take the magazine out. Fun fact, you can't take the magazine out of an AR-15 without taking it apart. It used to be something called a bullet button where you'd actually take a bullet, a pen, or another accessory that you could buy with the bullet button to press the magazine release and the magazine would fall out. They got rid of that because they decided it was too easy for people to change the magazine out.
But what about all the criminals that have the old ones?
Oh, exactly. And what about the people, I'm not saying I know anybody that does this, but live in California and don't really give a shit.
Fair enough.
They just do it anyway. And there's a lot of people that do that. I mean, you can go to Nevada and buy gun parts without getting a background check or anything. You can just buy them right over the counter because they're just parts for a tool. They bring them into California because there's no regulation on that, or customs in areas there are customs going in, actually. Customs in California, we have a friend from California. They told us when they were here that in order to go back and forth from Nevada, you have to go through a state's customs because they're not allowed to bring a certain plant back into California.
Really?
Yep, so it's like going over a border.
So they're really concerned with Americans bringing a plant from Nevada into California.
Yeah.
How do they feel about Canadians coming in from the north and Mexicans coming in from the south?
Hide your bacon, I guess.
Are they going to put a wall up? Is there going to be some sort of customs?
I don't know. I believe there's the wall should be down south and up north if we're going to do it because come on, you got the Canadians bring in as much drugs as the Mexicans do. You have
I knew I shouldn't have trusted Rudy from Canada.
I saw that podcast. I watched that. That was a good one. I actually watched that yesterday as soon as I got back from
Nice.
a meeting with you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Rudy. Love Rudy.
Yeah, the Canadians, the Coast Guard guy was telling me, they bring a lot of pills into the United States, in marijuana on the other side, the West Coast, but mainly pills over here. And down, it's the same thing. Wherever you're going to have a border, there's drugs coming in from Canada, and there's drugs coming out to Canada. It goes both ways. You got drugs from the very south of the United States going up to the very north of Canada.
Well, the difference is you only need to really fortify that border for about 6 months out of the year, because that's the only time that it's really palatable for a person to be smuggling anything over that border.
That is true.
I mean,
Canada,
when you're not bringing drugs in 3 feet of snow, it's just not cost effective at that point.
It's not going to happen at all. Not unless you launch them across or something like a catapult.
Exactly.
Our next subject is the NRA supporting him. What do you feel on that?
The NRA what?
Supporting Trump on the gun proposal at first, him turning his back on them, and then them going back to him. Again, it's kind of a wishy-washy relationship.
Well, I think that the NRA at this point, they don't have a lot of political friends, and they need what they can get. And I think that he's a smart man, and he's going to leverage his position to get out of them what he thinks he can get out of them. And I don't know exactly what that's going to end up meaning, because I can't get past his tweets, so I certainly can't get inside his head. But I think that they need him more than he needs them at this point.
Yeah, I don't have a Twitter yet. I might have to make one for the podcast, and I might have to follow him on that, see what he's saying. I see it on Facebook, all the tweets. I see some of them are funny. I also see the fake tweets.
You could sell that as an ad segment, you know. Trump's tweets this week brought to you by
Trump's tweets.
whoever your buddy is that owns the gun place.
Oh, Brian, yeah.
Yeah.
Brian's he's an awesome guy to talk to. I have many conversations with Brian's about this exact subject. And anybody local to the Salem area, if you know Next Level Firearms and you want to go buy a gun, I know he hasn't talked to me about saying this yet, so I don't know if I can or cannot. I don't think he'll care.
Yeah, you're 17.
I'm
what is he going to do, arrest you?
Go after my dad.
Technically, your mom's on this contract. So
all right, yeah. Sorry, Mom.
Still go after your dad.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Brad deserves it.
It's true.
He didn't stick around for the second show.
No, he didn't stick around for the
jerk.
second show. But yeah, Brian from Next Level, if you want to go talk to him about his opinion on firearms or even buy one from him, he has everything cool there. He's got everything I've seen some things I've never seen before, even on the internet, and I do a lot of research on guns. It's like that is my hobby. If I'm not at school, I'm not at work, or I'm not just sitting around, I'm looking at guns online and doing research into them. In new laws and government,
You're very big on the government, Joseph. Very big.
I see a lot of people online who have commented on my stuff in the past, and they've gotten annoyed with my posts. I purposely post on Facebook on a daily basis to annoy people. It's not to be. I'm past that point of let's educate you. It's just to annoy the people from mainly the left side, because I'm a libertarian, so I sit in the middle, and I'm more afraid to talk to my friends on the left than I am the right, because they do not like what other people have to say. I don't know why.
I find them to be a little. They're not as welcoming of opposing opinions as they have pretended to be in the past.
I think the old school leftists are the leftists. The old school Democrats from the 90s and the 80s, the older people generation, my mom's generation, dads. They don't care. They like your opinion.
Watch who you're calling older, by the way, because your mom and I are the same age.
I didn't know you were that old. Yeah. I mean, in the older generation. I don't mean old.
I understand. I'm just teasing you.
I know. You do that a lot.
Yeah.
The buyback program. We should be moving along on this.
Okay.
We keep getting off. The buyback program. So, per the Constitution, you can't take the Americans' properties without offering them compensation. And that compensation in some places has been as ridiculous as gift cards to a pizza place or
for the value of the firearm?
For the value of the firearm. And sometimes you have firearms like, let's say, a Python revolver. You can get those going anywhere from like $2,000 to, in prestige condition, never fired, special edition, to like $10,000. And you're gonna offer me a pizza card for it? No, thank you.
Hang on a second. $10,000 worth of pizza?
No, not $10,000 worth of pizza. They'll give you a card that says you can get a free pizza for a $10,000 firearm.
Oh no, I'm out.
Exactly.
If they were going to give me $10,000, let's say of Papa Gino's, that rustic pizza.
Oh yeah.
I'm in for
Deep
$10,000.
dish, rustic pizza.
Because I can get pizza for the next 5 years. I'm all set.
Extra cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if they're giving me one pizza for a $10,000 firearm, I don't think that that's fair compensation, and
That's
maybe
true.
that's just me.
I mean, it all depends if you really want your pizza or not, how desperate you are for the pizza.
I'll just buy the pizza.
Yeah, just buy the pizza. You also don't have to comply with that buyback. If you feel that it's not enough compensation, you do not have to comply with that. I believe, let me double check on that, but I believe you don't have to actually comply with that buyback. Do you have any knowledge on that?
Where is the buyback? Is it in New Hampshire?
No, it's proposed. So
Oh,
it'll be
okay.
federally. Places like California, New York, I believe Connecticut or Rhode Island, one of those two states, they've offered people money for their firearms, their accessories. Some, I believe, in the early 1900s, 1930s, when they adopted the National Firearms Act, when they banned short-barrel shotguns, suppressors, and short-barrel rifles, they actually offered a buyback to them and a grandfathering system, so you could choose. You either want to give your firearm up and get the compensation, or you can just have it and be grandfathered into the system, which is now now is the National Firearms Act, and it's still the same rules are in place. They've added a couple things since the 80s. They added fully automatic weapons, pre-banned, real assault weapons. So assault weapons is something that's fully automatic. It isn't semi-automatic, so you people out there that keep calling, my AR-15 ain't a assault rifle. It's not. So you keep saying you can't have assault rifles. I'll
But
tell
yeah,
you you're right, I can't.
there's no difference between an AR-15 and my 6-hour P238. They have the basic same rate of fire. As fast as you can pull the trigger,
As fast as you can pull the trigger.
that's how fast the
Yep.
ammo comes out.
And I laugh at like not InfoWars. Occupy Democrats, The Atlantic, MSNBC, when they say, oh, this firearm has a rate of 600 rounds per minute. Well, first, that's wrong for the automatic. It's not 600 rounds per minute when you're talking about an AR platform. It's around 700, 750 for first. And second, the rate of fire is how fast they can pull the trigger. So it's actually an undefined rate of fire.
I mean, you could get the rocker one like they have for paintball and just really go to town.
If they had that, that would be cool. I would get one, but they don't.
All right.
Next best thing is a binary trigger or a bump stock. Right now, you can't even buy bump stocks. Not because of the legal process, but they're on back order for like 4 or 5 months. Forever.
Yeah.
Forever and ever. You can't ever get one.
By the time you're ready to get it, they'll be outlawed.
Yes. I don't think they are, though, to be honest with you. I think the American people, they're going to show the administration, they're going to show the government, I can make this with a 2x4, and you can't tell me that it's a rate-increasing device because guess what? It's an object I made, and you can't prove unless you have me on film doing this. And I think what the new administration, he's smarter than we all think he is. I think he's going to look at it and say it's pointless. We're going to waste tax money on putting this through the House or the Senate, and then the Supreme Court's going to look at it, and if the Supreme Court doesn't agree with anyone, they can tell them, nope, you can't even do that, and then it's going to go through the whole process over again, and I think that's going to happen, and he's just either going to give up or somehow he's going to do it. I don't know how that's going to work out, but I hope he does not because it's pointless. It is an infringement yet again on the Second Amendment, and we have all too many of those. For anybody who's wondering out there, I am not pro-gun. You can get anything. I am and I'm not to a certain extent. Wow. Extent.
It's okay.
Take a sip of water.
Please do. So do you think someone should be able to own an Uzi?
Absolutely. If they pass the mental background check and they're fine, they can own it, and they're legally able to own it, go right ahead. No, I'd let you own a rocket launcher. I don't care. Walk on it with your back up and down 28. I've seen down in Texas when I was there, I watched a group of like 30, 40 people walk around AR-15, shotguns, scars, if you know what those
I think
are.
a rocket launcher is a little excessive walking down the street.
Well, I mean,
I'm just saying for me.
For you,
for
yeah.
me,
I mean,
it's
I've never
excessive.
seen anybody walk around with a rocket
I
launcher.
would be concerned if I saw a rocket launcher walking down the street.
That's true. I mean, if you can own it, go right ahead. And if the government has it, you should have it because if the government decides to not want to follow your Bill of Rights after they do attempt this buyback, goes to civil unrest, the people are fighting back in the government, it's going to happen. Something very, very bad is going to happen within this country, and I think it's going to happen very soon if we keep going in the direction we're going. People have said that in the past with Obama, but Obama never had the support to be able to do this. Now we have somebody in office who played his way through the election as a conservative, and a lot of people are calling him a standard New York liberal. And there's nothing wrong with being a New York liberal, but people are insulting him using that, calling him kind of a fake wolves in sheep clothing, I believe that's the expression. because he's doing this. And if he thinks it's a good idea, go right ahead. Think it's a good idea, but let the states choose what they want to ban, what they don't want to ban. What's good for Massachusetts isn't good for New York. What's good for New Hampshire isn't good for Maine. It goes all ways.
Well, and then we can move to where we align with the laws.
Exactly. But if New Hampshire votes not to ban these things like now, I believe there's no standing regulations in New Hampshire for firearms. I believe they just leave it to the federal government and carry, but now they actually got rid of the carry law last year. So now it's constitutional. If you're 18 years old, you're allowed to own a firearm, you can carry a firearm.
Do you think that somebody should have some sort of training to be carrying?
I believe they should have some sort of training for carrying, but it's your right to decide whether you are or not going to get that training. It's all up to you. It's all free will. Like I said, no one should cover your free will.
You're an amazing man, Joseph.
Thank you. I do believe, though, if you carry a firearm and you don't carry an extra magazine or at least a tourniquet to stop yourself from bleeding, you are dumb. I'll just put it bluntly. If you don't carry an extra magazine or a tourniquet or like a med kit, little gauze, if you're planning on getting shot at or planning on being able to use your firearm in a defensive way, you should also plan on somehow saving your own life if you do get shot in a vulnerable area.
So you just called me an idiot. I don't carry an extra magazine and I don't have any gauze, but I'm going to.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to.
There's
I just don't think it's called for that you just call me an idiot. I was ignorant.
Okay, I'll give you. All right, you're ignorant to. You're ignorant. Let's just put it that way.
All right. So if you were to summarize today's show, what would that sound like?
Again, let me read the back one. This sums up the second episode of The Young American. Thank you for watching again. Please, next week, come back. We'll be here talking about the same old stuff. Essentially the same old stuff. We're going to see how the government decides to turn what they want to do, what they want to regulate. Next week, we're going to be talking about what happens. If this keeps going the way it's going to go, which I do think it will at some extent, how and when the civil unrest will start, who is it going to be caused by, how are we going to prevent it, and again, is this a violation of the oath of the first responders, people who are going to enforce this law if it goes into place? All right, thank you.
All right, you're listening to The Young American with Joseph Bemister.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.